Hello and welcome to the latest State of the Nation interview with regards to freedom of religion or belief in the United Kingdom. My name is James Holt and I am chair of the Freedom Declared Foundation, which is a charity which aims to gather first-hand evidence to understand people's perception of freedom of religion or belief in the United Kingdom. We aim to understand what people believe freedom of religion or belief means and how this compares to the international obligations the UK has signed up to. We recognise there is a difference between individual and institutional arrangements for freedom of religion and belief, and we're going to focus on different aspects. Today, we're very pleased to be joined by the General Secretary of the Hindu Council of UK, Rajnish Kashyap. The Hindu Council of UK was set up in 1994 to meet the needs of the Hindu community. Rajnish has been a Hindu his whole life and has been involved in many aspects of Hindu work, including the development of a mandir in Southall in London. So good afternoon, Rajnish. Thank you so much for joining with me. We normally start the interview with just a very straightforward question, really, is what do you understand by the phrase freedom of religion or belief, and what does that mean to you?
I think this is a question we've been dealing for for many years, really, and we were part of and still a part of a government set of round table where we did discuss the freedom of belief and freedom of religion, really, because every individual, I think, if you spirituality says that every humans are equal in a sense, really, perhaps they are because of their upbringing, because of their little bit different way of reaching to the God, or their spirituality in a sense that it has a slightly different faith, like on a different path. I would say, being a Hindu myself, I think, as very commonly known all over United Kingdom, I think we believe in a Murti Puja, means we believe that God has an image, and that's what temple shows us, and I think that's what we do it. Perhaps different religion might not have it. So we do still feel that's we don't want to impose ourselves on the host community or any other community, but at the same times we have a slight different way of doing it, but that need to be respected, that need to be protected in a similar way. If other people are doing it, we have absolutely no problem. Yes, we respect that, and in the same way, that is what it is, that as long as people are following without imposing their thoughts and their way of life to other people, then the person who is following those things should have equal rights, equal freedom to follow that, really, and within the scope, within the parameter of the country they are living in, really, and make sure really that you are there to be a part of the community, rather than you don't want to stand out differently, but there are in certain individual traits which is very important as far as religion is concerned. Otherwise, we are okay with that. We are okay. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So it's the idea that perhaps as the UK, we are one community, and kind of the importance of freedom of religion and belief is to ensure that people don't stand outside of that community, but they're able to fully function or be fully functional within that community according to the kind of the dictates of their heart and their conscience. Is that?
Yes, it is that. I think by nature, I think I would say, as far I can only speak on behalf of my own community, really, because there is a saying, a very prominent saying from Lord Krishna. If anybody has a knowledge of Hindu scripture, which is Gita, and there is very, and this is what we believe, this is what on a daily basis when we go to the temple or we go prayer at home as well, where he said Vasudevaya Kutam, means the whole world is one big family. So when I am praying for me, I am not just praying for myself, I am praying for every single human who lives in this world, really. So we don't see that James is different than me. He looks different, but is part of the creation. Whoever your God may be, he created, and we're living there. I respect James in a sense. I respect everybody else. His way of doing it. We are way of doing it. We are a little bit different, reaching out to the God, but we are still the same underneath, really. And that is a very much upbringing, and this is what you would see in every single household, really. And they believe in that, and then they allow each and every one that space within your own family, within that sort of thing, that what we say, a religion is a way of life rather than a commandments and other things given. No, how you feel to reach your God, that is your thing. Freedom of expression is very important, because that is every individual, religiously or otherwise, he is entitled to express himself, and we are entitled to listen. We may not agree, but we are entitled to listen to that person's. We might have an opposing view, but does not mean the other person is not entitled to express that. That's what we definitely feel. And this is not my word. You can pick up a small little child, he would say the same thing. An elderly gentleman, he would say the same thing, because this is what it's sort of. I would say, if you ever go to a temple, you would see that prayer starts with that and prayers end with that. And this is what it is. It's just inbuilt in ourselves that we are part of a very large family, regardless which part of the world you live in.
That's lovely. And that's a really nice idea, is that kind of, as you say, we're all part of the same family. And so we should each show each other that same respect, and that's it, because we're part of that creation. So that's great. So you've spoken a lot about how, as a Hindu, that is not your responsibility, but it's your kind of joy, or your responsibility to look after and to reach out to others and to afford them the same rights that you would hope to have yourself. Do you think that Britain does that? Do you think we have freedom of religion and belief in Britain? And what's good about it? What's bad about it? Those things.
I think, James, we are part of Interfaith Network. So in a sense, I think Interfaith Work is a national body, and it has a member of various different community. I mean, if you're talking about as of today, I understand that people have a lot of respects for different community. I would say we are reaching to that things. And if there is any reason where there is a shortfall, perhaps it's not. I would say, really, we are not here to judge people, but in a sense, I would say that perhaps they have a lack of understanding of a different religion. Perhaps that's what think them differently. Subconsciously, it's come to their thinking process, that perhaps that sometimes it's come across negatively, I would say, really. But what in a freedom as the individual, really, because we came long way, and I'm saying that thing, what it was in the 70s, what is it now? Because I came in 70, and I could say very vividly remember, I think we could see the difference. We could see the lack of equality is there. And as a immigrant, I would say that when I came in this country, so you would hide, you would not express in the same feeling. You would be always conscious that what you're wearing it and your clothes could be a part of target. So you become sort of really that your outer layer is something which you want to portray, so you do not want to stand out, that you don't want to be picked up in that sense, really. And slowly we start thinking, we start notice again, James, it is because of this process which you are now discussing. It's a long time. It's sort of slowly are moving forward in a right direction, really. And there are subconscious bias, I would say, definitely, and that it is, in my opinion, if you want a true belief and true freedom, then education within primary school and secondary schools are very, very important. I think we are lacking in that sense, because people they don't disrespecting, and I think I'm not accusing anybody. they're not disrespecting, but they are their own bubble, really. They perhaps would know, yes, he's a Hindu, yes, Diwali is their main festival, but that's about it. It's very good for a primary school kids to, they know better than the kids of secondary schools and other things, really. Yeah, and I don't really know why there is a lack of understanding that they need to know. It's not that you're taking up that particular, it's good to know, because where we grew up, really, because again, I can only give example of India. It's a large community. People perhaps says, yes, it's a one single faith majority, but you have a substantial amount of various different faiths are living there. And when we were in a school, we need to learn all those things, even though not religiously, because of community. So we learned, we picked up a lot of things when people were asking this question. We knew why they're doing, what is the reason behind it. So it stayed in behind our mind, because that's what in children you learn, not so in depth like you are a professor, perhaps you know everything about it, but as a child, what is important to know, we knew about it. That's why they are doing it. If they are covering their head, that was the reason. If a Sikh person wearing a turban, why he was wearing it, fine, and why a Christian is what doing it, what they say. So we picked up those things. So when we came in this country, so for me, it was not something different, because we grew up into that. But what I saw in that in 70s, really, that there is lack of understanding within the community to know what it is. And I think I would again say that it's there's a two sector, in my opinion, as far as I'm concerned, is a corporate sector, which has a very little knowledge of it. And when the children, when they come to secondary schools, then it is important in the sense that if you want very inclusive society, it's not the religious education, but why communities, because there are 3 or 4 major faith in these things, really. It's because of the lack of knowledge. Many times when people subconsciously, unintentionally says a lot of things, which one would feel that it is where you feel that you're missing that freedom, or there is you've been questioned for that. And if you want freedom of belief, then I would say definitely corporates, as far as Hindu religion is concerned, they are lacking a lot of things. They are, because of their importance giving to the profit margin and to sell their product, many times they are doing a lot of things which hurts people's feeling that. And because we are a umbrella organizations, we end up taking those issues really, because it's come across that there is no freedom, they hurt the feelings. So these are little bit of gray areas where it is important. And in the same way, if you're talking of freedom and equality and freedom, other thing, then those people who decide to make rules and regulations, they need to understand much more in-depth information out there. I'm not saying they are biased, but they have a lack of understanding. So as far as other things, education need to be much more improved in those areas. Really.
That's really interesting, because that is a theme that has come out throughout the interviews, is that government and other agencies are not consciously biased or ignoring people. It's just that they kind of don't know what they don't know, essentially, that they're kind of overlooking groups. It's really positive that you say, obviously, over the last 40 to 50 years, things have improved, which is great. But there was a recent report, I think last year, that kind of reflected on the teaching of Hinduism within school, and basically said it wasn't good. There were lots of things that were missed out. And in terms of, people knew, as you said, people know about Diwali, but not an awful lot. And as you say, perhaps at secondary school, the focus becomes a lot less as things focus. So how do you think, I suppose, the teaching of Hinduism, or Sanatana Dharma, or however we phrase, how do you think that can be improved in the UK, do you think?
I think it is very important, improved in a sense, really. I think I'll give you an example, James. About a year and a half ago, a a GCSE level question and answer, which was part of your part of the syllabus really. And we did not. I think it was a parent, a father of a child who raised this issue, because what as a text, this is what the fighting sort of thing, that a text was put in there explaining about certain part of that Hinduism. When we read that thing, we were absolutely shocked that who has written that thing really, because this is completely, I mean, we were baffled in a sense that wherever they are getting this info, it's not perhaps the person who advised, perhaps the person who written that text has a little knowledge of that really thing, because it's really stand out in a sense, because parents, in my opinion, should involve, and if they think religion and faith is important for them, then they need to go through with this, like that father who read it. He said, I'm not very good at it, but it's just when I read, my son brought that, he was 15 or 16, and in a very, very prestigious school up in North, they were studying when they brought it to his father's attention that they want to do, could they explain this thing? And the very first thing he was said, look, excuse me, I'm shocked really that this is what has been written, even though I'm a doctor, I have a very little knowledge of that, but this is not what it is really. And then the moment we raised this question to the school, and they passed it on to those people, those to do the GCSE question and answer. Mm-hmm. So we written to them, they straight away said, look, I'm sorry, I think you're absolutely right. And that where again the problem is that these education, these things, James, is part of the council. If you have a different council, it's not a national curriculum, national survey, different councils they have their right how they want to do it, and this is where it is. So they were teaching the same thing up in North, and then you found out it's been taught in the West London as well. This is all these things, and moment is become a news. Every parent start picking it up and start saying it. So this thing where we see that wherever it is important, then it is need to understand that right people need to advise. And we are here really, we are not saying that we are expert in that, but because we are a national umbrella body, and our affiliates are all walks of life. We are who are scholars, who are educationists, and other thing. You need to get involved, and before it will publish a part of your syllabus, it is very important that it need to be to go, and regardless which council you are in, emphasis should be on there that if you have a community living there, then it is better to have this sort of thing. Even if a community not living in there, United Kingdom is a multicultural, multi-faith society, and it is important. What's wrong if my son knows about Islam? I'm quite happy that he should know about Islam. And what's wrong him to have a better understanding of Christianity, of Judaism? What's wrong in that? There might not be enough student of those particular faith, but in any walk of life, in the future, he might be living with those kind of people. His work might take him to Middle East, his work might take him to anywhere. Having a better understanding of those things will help him to live much more equally among those people, and respecting and explaining. And that's where the friendships, that where the bonding increases. I can tell you, if you, as a professor, if you go to a Middle Eastern country, and if you have an absolutely good knowledge of their tradition and faith, they will welcome you more, that you've gone out of your way to know about it and respecting. So this is where you get from those schools, which is your asset throughout your life, which you can utilize as and when it is there. If it can be utilized, it will utilize. It'll make you a better person. It definitely will make you a better person.
Fantastic. And that's kind of what you say there, is the involvement of Hindus and the Hindu community, or even of Muslims and the Muslim community, in helping teachers and helping schools and everyone else kind of understand how they should be teaching and what they're teaching. And it's one of the things that I find, because my main role in life, well, my main role in my professional life is as a professor of religious education. And I think what's really important is that teachers use authentic voices. So they use Hindus to kind of, so I would ask you, well, how important is a certain aspect of Hinduism to you? And rather than just me narrating that, but you actually being able to talk and help me understand and help students understand those things. So that's really, really helpful. And I think there is a need for all religions and to be taught better within schools so that people can understand. And I think that will filter through. Maybe there's a need, I mean, you mentioned corporations and governments and different things, but maybe there is a need for an increased religious literacy training there as well, do you think?
Well, that is the demand, I think, James. We've been pointing it out. If it is not, how come every 2 weeks later we end up writing to Amazon? How come every I will give you a wonderful example of that religious literacy could cost you, not you in a sense, to big corporate, massive big, I would not name who makes very expensive women's handbag, a bag which was been selling in Harrods for £6,000.
Wow.
And the biggest mistake they made, they had a image of Lord Ganesha, and wonderful, everything was absolutely nothing. And then that image of Lord Ganesha was erected on a hide, on a leather. And the moment you do that thing, you know that in a Hindu tradition, you don't even take shoes inside because you will not stand for that. And I think the moment they realized they had to withdraw all those things, a designer's fault or whoever's fault did not even understood, because there was not enough understanding that leather, a cow leather and other leather, they do not go with Hinduism. It's completely a no areas for that. So just imagine how much money they have spent and how much things they can, and they have to withdraw it all together, everything, on a major cost. And same with, we come around with a lot of superstores and other things. When I don't really know why people do that, they sort of have a beef steaks or whatever, and they put God's image on that, and then suddenly they say, but you know that cow is respected in Hinduism, and those things really, is again, these are the ideas people, they know there is a religion called Hinduism. They know there's they believe in vegetarianism. They know that cow is a very sacred animal for that. But how come then when you are promoting your product and going on a shelf, why can't you put 2 plus 2 together? The moment, it's a simple thing. We're not saying that something is wrong with the beef, but when you're putting those two together, what you're trying to do, what you're doing, you're hurting other religious feeling, really.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. Yes, that's what it is.
And that's positive. It's not positive, but it's positive that they responded by withdrawing it from sale. I just wonder about another example where it wasn't withdrawn. So for example, I think it's within the £5 note, there is an animal product. Yes. And obviously when someone goes to the Mandir and make an offer, then but I mean, I know they've changed it, I think, for the £20 note and maybe for the £10 note, but the government have said we're not changing it for the £5. How?
We were part of that. Hindu Council was very prominently were invited, Bank of England, and we had a major discussion. We were disappointed really in that sense, because they would keep on saying that animal fat is minute really in a sense, and whatever it is. But again, our community as such that they are not the one who sort of react in any other way, but they will be disappointed. But then they assured us that in further, whether the £20 notes and £50 notes, it would be a less sort of thing. But perhaps it was due to a production reason, because it's already been printed. They could not have sort of a drawn sort of thing in that sense, really. And I think, yes, it was a big reason we did go to them. Their explanation was there. Whether we accept it or not, that's a different thing, but we could not change their mind. And perhaps a big lesson been learned. And I think I'll give you an example that when in March 2020, when COVID was thought, it hit United Kingdom, and what you call it, included places of worship, everything. There was a lockdown, really. I think in end of April, May, Secretary of State for Community, it was Robert Jenkins, who set up a task force, and I was a part of that task force, really. And during that things they needed, I think this is where they came very positively, very prominently. They came and they say, look, we don't really want, we need advice from you, how we can reopen the places of worships, how we can sort of, what is the understanding, because safety and other procedures involve a lot of things which might stop you to carry out your ritual sort of thing. So it is good they have spoken to us, and we cascaded those information. It's a very normal, a very nice way to each and every temple. So we were connected with all the temples, from the temples, the community, and that progressed into the next step was vaccination, because during that time there was huge number of fake news was going, and the property of vaccine, whether it has an animal fat in it or whether it's a sort of thing. There was a lot of things, a lot of concerns, really. People were refusing because of the ingredient of those as such. I think then we worked very hard to promote it, that in sense that, look, excuse me, it is important that there's no animal fat, and whether it's a beef or anything else, and no human cells, that, you know, those percent and other thing. That was a Catholic, people were raising a lot of voice. So it's worked out in a sense. This is what I'm saying, that what we were 30, 40 years ago, we are progressing in the right thing. I think people understand, but there is still, the word is a very common word, everybody, subconscious biasness is still there, but it is, in my opinion, to do with the education rather than anything else. And that's my belief.
Just talking about COVID, thank you for that. But just thinking about COVID, so pre-COVID, I went to an arti ceremony at my local mandir, and it was very immersive, it was very loud, lots of singing and all different kinds of things. And then not too long ago, I went to another arti ceremony at the same mandir. And when I was there, people were not able to sing, and so it was kind of piped music through the audio system from kind of a CD or whatever kind of musical thing. So my experience as an observer was different between the two. So do you feel that kind of your opportunity to worship or to celebrate was curtailed at all during the COVID, or is that actually fine that it was for public safety?
It was curtailed. It was absolutely curtailed, because it's our habit when we go. I think there's 2 times. I think people go to temple on a daily basis. Some goes in the morning, some goes in thing. It's rituals, like you're saying, that when you're doing your prayers, a priest will start off. He's like a main person, and everybody will join that. This is a part of combination. This is part of celebration. That was stopped. People will stand together. It was a distance. You know you're missing it. You were not allowed to touch. And another way, if you've been to the temple, other very important aspect, that once you finish, you come to a certain area where they give you prasad, they give you apple or something. You take. That was the most hurtful things people felt, that I come to the temple and the prasad is equal, what a God is giving it to you, I'm not able to take it. So that was, the connection was missing. And I think this completely subdued, in a sense, really, that your relationship with your God. You see what we say, James, You have a temple at home, you could have it, but you have a temple at a mandir. Oh, no, sorry, you have images of God at home. You have your little temple at home. There is a difference between a temple at home and temple itself outside, really. If you see those images in a marbles, another thing, there is a rituals for a whole week ritual. What we say is from a stone, from a stone, it's become a living being when they do that ritual for 7 days. That what we are bringing, making this God is a live person there. And there are those, and if you go, then we and every temple carry out first thing in the morning symbols of changing their clothes, symbol of changing their clothes, bathing them, and really dressing them up, and in the afternoon offering those lunch to them, evening offering those the food. And they says, when you offer those food, God takes it, because it's not a stone, it's not a marble, it's a living being. That's perhaps the main reason when they go to the temple, then as a devotee, James as a devotee and a statue, whoever, it's not important. It is your personal choice to whom you feel well connected. It could be anybody. Nobody says no. You can be very well connected to a banyan tree if you feel that this is where your relationship, the relationship with the nature and relationship with all those things, these are representation. So you could relate to anything. You can stand, and when you stand there, then you think what your feelings are, what your pain or happiness, you're sharing it, and your God is responding to that sense. That perhaps this is that kind of relationship that was broken really in sense. And I think we opened again, and people are coming, but we still missing that vibration it was pre-COVID. That so this is slowly is coming back, but hopefully
yeah. So I'm interested, do you feel that those restrictions were justified? Because obviously we're in the middle of a global pandemic. Was that something that should have been taken away? Because obviously
no,
you're very
in my
passionate.
opinion, I would say virus was unknown. Fatality in 20s was very high because no vaccination, another thing. Fright was there. Nobody knew it. And I would always, and even if you believe in a God, whoever it may be, that God's preaching would always be that human life is the most important really. And we believe in that. If taking those precautions, whatever it may be, then take those precautions. If you're distancing and if you're staying away from that, and if you're not singing behind those priests who is singing it, but whatever, whether you're praying without making any noise, without raising anything, but if you believe in God, then God knows that whatever you're doing it, he's paying attention. If that's what you say, that God is everywhere, God sees everything, then he's noticing it. Whatever you're doing is you're doing it because for you, fellow human beings, life is very important. If your action can save it, if your washing hands can save it, if we were, I think within 2 months and 3 months, James, we convinced safe the government's thing that we can give prashad, but it need to pack individually, and we can sort of hand it. If people are wearing those gloves and things, it can hand over. So we start giving it to that. I think it's slowly people understand. I think they were not resentful, but they were happy that we were allowing them to come, allowing them to enjoy their time. So it is important that they understood as well. I think they perhaps main reason is that they felt comfortable coming back in that. So this is what it is. It's a community really, and if we still now notice as well, I think is again, I think last 2 years affected a lot of people's mental well-being, and they feel comfortable. They come, we are here, they talk to us. Perhaps they don't want to go to anybody else. There's something, they're elderly people, they come, they will sit down. If you give them listening ear, you can hear it, and it whoever may be. So yes, I think I think we are little bit diverting ourselves from the topic you are discussing, but that what is a freedom is really that wherever you feel comfortable, it's a different way of finding comfortable to human nature. Otherwise, we're all same end of the day. And we work very hard, and we think we are almost there. And most important way of bringing it to have an education, and education will play a very, very important role.
An interesting thing I noted was there was a president of the Oxford Union who was elected who was a Hindu, and she had to resign after a few days because of anti-Hindu or Hinduphobia that she experienced. Now, obviously, Hinduphobia is horrendous and shouldn't happen. But how do you feel that was dealt with, and was that dealt with well, or all of those?
No, I think again, James, we very actively taken part. We have written to the Dean of Oxford University and to the registrars. Personally, I have written, so we have, I think, long communication, a lot of efforts. We taken part into proving other things. And I think she was targeted, in my opinion. I think this is a completely different sector. If you're talking on a phobia in a open, on your face kind of, how do I say that, open discrimination is not there, but it's switched to on the social media, definitely. And which we need to tackle this thing, in my opinion. And I think it's that, look, phobia, in my opinion, James, is a wrong word, because we haven't got in nature, people don't have a phobia that we physically we are attacking. It's not a phobia. I would rather say people saying because of Islamic phobia and another thing. It's not. There is a nature of, we studied a lot and we discussed that it's like more like a Hinduphobia, in a sense that you get hated within your own community because what you are doing it. In that perhaps the more reason. There is somebody who completely disagree what as a Hindu tradition you're doing. It could be within your own community. I'm not saying that if you are non-believer, one thing you got to live with that look, you're okay. If you don't believe, fine. But if those traditions, whatever it is, if you're not happy, you get targeted a lot. So it's become a trend nowadays that you are targeted not because of anything you're doing it. You're just targeting because you're just a Hindu, in a sense.
So is there enough protection and enough done about things when Hindus are targeted within the UK, do you think?
Social media, I think we are lacking a lot of things, really. People don't understand. I think people, your habit, your way of system, your traditions. I think there is a term been invented, in my opinion, called Hindutvā, because of your hate of one particular, and it's got nothing to do in United Kingdom. It's to do something far away, which is in India. We are not part of that sort of thing. It's in any major democracy, you perhaps have a right-wing government coming in, or left-wing government coming, or central government is coming. If that political reason you have a dislike of one particular sort of thing, religion should not be a part of it, because religion is a different. Religion is part of a tradition which you're following it for last 7,000 years. You've been targeted because if you just do something, then you would be targeted as a Hindutvā. I don't really know what does it means, Hindutvā. If you translate, Hindutvā means the person who follow Hinduism. So these are a political difference, a lot of things, and normal people get affected really because this is what their tradition, this is what they sort of do it. you become a part of it, and I think this is definitely in rise as well, that would your tradition, your way of life been targeted under the headlines of that you are a follower Hindutva, and we always says, please explain to us what is Hindutva? Well, how do you describe a Hindutva? Because for me, Hindutva means the person who is following Hindu way of life. Simple as this. You say that this is something we don't like it, then we can explain, we can explore, and we can see it. But there is no explanation, no definition, no nothing. It's not open abusing. It's, you will come across. I mean, I think there's another beautiful, wonderful case was a professor in, again, I have no problem because we raised that question again in Oxford University. He perhaps, whatever the reason, did not believe the traditions, and he very openly said, I've done this and I've done this, I've broken the statues, this thing, I've done these things. And he sort of, again, it's all interrelated to that Oxford president. She is this thing, and because she born into that particular, it's a big state, James, and they're all whatever Hindutva and all those things. And then people were saying, look, excuse me, whatever you're feeling, whatever, you don't believe in that, it's why if you're writing or you're doing it, you are hurting other people's feeling really. So you have an angriness against one particular person. If you don't believe in if you're atheist, whatever reason you may have, but it does not mean that you are allowed to hurt other people's feeling. You're not doing it on a physical form, you were writing it. I think we read into that. So yes, it is, there is definitely a different trend. I don't really know why people think it is important that people need to be targeted. Perhaps social media is such that you write any objectionable things, you get a lot of likes, you feel like it is, then it's become a habit that you do something extraordinary, you write something outrageously, then people will look into, and people look at that. And I think what way of doing it involve religion into, which is wrong in my opinion. I would not do it. I would not suggest anybody to do it. Look, all religions are wonderful, they're good, and if there is any shortfall that is not religious, it's a shortfall for that particular individuals who has a different understanding of it. So it's people, if they understand that thing, they have a better living.
That's really interesting. Just one last question, because I know I've taken an awful lot of your time. How do you think the UK is doing at promoting freedom of religion and belief abroad, as well as in the UK? But how well do you think we're doing with that?
We're not. If we were, then why would not we raise the voice for China? Then we were not, and why we were there are a lot of other things were taking place, and why we're not raising our voice. Really simple as it is. I think it's important that any discrimination, any form, any part of it, that we must raise it. I think we worked very closely with, I know Lord Tariq Ahmed is a very good person. He was a minister for religious freedom and something. I think he raised a lot of good issues. One of the prominent was that discrimination or disappearing Christianity from Iraq. There's a very good issues he's taken it. I think he's taken similar thing in Iraq, Syria as well. So yes, I think it's if he's doing these things, then in my opinion they should be very prominent, because I have no hesitation. I'm being a Hindu, I'm saying plight of Hindus in Pakistan, plight of Hindus in Bangladesh is really, I think is heavily discriminated in those two nations. And I think a percentage after Second World War and after partition, if you see, there was 29% of Hindus were living in Bangladesh, and the percentage of Hindus in Pakistan was around 20-25%. Have a look now. It's in Pakistan 0.0, not even 0.2% left over. What happened to those people? Where are they? And they are always, temples get attacked over there. Young Hindu girls get kidnapped. So I think then government should raise these voices. I think and similar things happens in Bangladesh as well. We are doing our bits as well. We raise our voice. And then again, other examples of that, you have Afghanistan. Once upon a time, 20 odd years ago, there was almost 300 to 400,000 Sikh and Hindu was living. Now, 200 is left over there. So it's so these sort of things. Then I would say, not you can't do anything, but at least you should raise a voice in there. You need to come across that you're dealing with this thing. At least you need to be seen that you believe that every person, if those after partition, those individual and those community decided to live in those part of it, they thought they have a future. So as a minority, if we are protected in United Kingdom, then other community need to be protected wherever they are.
Yeah, so, sorry, I know I said it was last one. Why do you think we don't speak up? Why do you think we don't kind of?
I have no idea. This is a question I've asked many times to the ministers. Why do you think? I have no idea. They need to. We always say, when we raise a question, it's not a political because on a compulsion of politics. We just raise because these sort of concern, these sort of issues were brought to our notice really. Like we said, we are people's voice really. And I think what happened in the last year during Diwali and Durga Puja in Bangladesh, we written to the government, we written to the High Commissioner of Bangladesh really. And we say we are not blaming anything, but as a minority, you need to protect them. Unfortunately, you're still waiting for those even to respond. Forget about responding to confirm that they have received the letter. So yes, it is there. It needs to be raised. We do our part of it. I think I have no idea why people in power take those things very sort of seriously, because it is end of the day, wherever you are, life of every human is very important really. If it is not really, I think it rightly many times things happen in India against a minority community. Everybody raises that. And we do not agree with this, and with the similar questions are put to us, and we need to answer those questions in the same way, because we always get these questions really. This thing happened against Christians people, and this thing happened against Muslim people, and we have to be open up and say yes, it is very important really. But at the same time, we are saying that is democratic nations in a sense, and there is enough law. We can't, again, we're saying we cannot responsible individual acts, but it is important that government need to be seen, and we do write to the Indian government that, look, if this is something happen, you please do take it, because there is a part of your minority, they are those sort of things. Then similar sort of things happen, and we expect at least to find out why there is so much sort of thing. Why? I think if you are a professor, then would you need, and on a religious sort of things, then a question should raise to your mind really. What was the reason? Okay, Iraq, what was the reason the Christians left? They were living there for centuries. Why those Iraqi Jews left those sort of things? They were living sort of thing. How come huge number of Hindu who decided after partition were living? Why did they leave? Why their total populations is reduced to not even 1%? How come total population of Bangladesh Hindu who were 29% is below 9%? Why? What made them to leave? And what was the frightfulness really? So these are a lot of good questions which need to be, and if we are talking about freedom of faith and belief in a worldwide, then it is important. Then as a good body, yourself and other people should raise really. All right, at least we all need to be seen to in their eyes, in the eyes of those people who are living, that people are thinking about it, people are serious about it, and they do care about this thing. That is the message need to come across.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today.
One more thing, there is a conference going on in July, and Commonwealth and Foreign Office is organizing 2-day seminars. Are you attending that?
As a charity, we will be. So I hope to, but as a charity, we certainly will be.
Case, I have written. I mean, just because you connect. In that case, I have written to Lord Ahmad's office as well, because we've been a faith advisor to them. What we have noticed that in that seminars, Hindu representation is negligible. So it is important when you're talking about that you need to have a people from this faith, from Hindu faith, to be on a stage to express their point of view. Really, it is very important for that, really, whoever it may be. So.
Yes, I mean, very much so. The ministerial, it should be representative of all faiths and none, really, that everybody should have that voice. So that's really helpful. Thank you so much for your time today, Rajnish. It's been really interesting to talk to you and to reflect on the Hindu experience within the UK, or your own experience as well. So thank you so much for your time.